Today we have a special podcast. I'm meeting with my new friend Evgenia, and Evgenia. Today with Evgenia, we're going to discuss three incredible countries to move to that are ideal from a tax perspective. What that means for you is that living in one of these three countries will keep more money in your pocket. Evgenia is the owner of Nomad Tax. She's a lawyer and an international tax expert who lives in Cyprus, one of the countries we'll discuss today. Evgenia, thanks for being a part of the podcast. It's great to see you. How you doing?
Hi, all is good. Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah, as you mentioned, I live in Cyprus, so I would love to talk about it because I simply fell in love with this country and like for many years I live here and this love is just like getting more and more like on the other level.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, let's start off by you telling a little bit about your backstory, who you are, how you started Nomad Tax, and how you're helping people like my demographic, retirees, digital nomads, business owners select the right country for them.
Okay, yeah, actually I'm a lawyer as you mentioned, and for many years I was working for different companies as their in-house lawyer, dealing with like corporate taxes, tax law, like anything was actually dealing with law that was on me. At some point, I was the deputy head of the legal department. And but at some point I realized that I can do more. So I decided that I need my own thing. I don't want to be just an employee anymore. So I started my own company. Actually, we did not start with the Nomad Tax at the beginning. We were starting just as the relocation of people to Cyprus, but later on we noticed that there is a high demand. I mean, like we cannot tell people just like on the benefits of relocating to Cyprus if the other country might benefit them more. So that's actually how we transformed. And now we are helping people to choose the best jurisdiction, the best country to relocate to. So like, okay, like I live in Cyprus, but that's not necessarily the best case scenario for everyone. So
Mm.
that's exactly how we started Nomad Tax.
Okay.
And yeah, and now we actually see a high demand on these services. So people need to have like an opinion on what are the benefits. Maybe the benefits, the tax benefits are great, but then they are not eligible to relocate there. So like we try to combine everything together and the clients will make a life-changing decision that will be correct.
All right. Oh, great. That's awesome. And I discovered you guys. I found you on YouTube, and I love your YouTube channel. It's a tremendous resource, and I reached out to you initially to connect with you guys because I believe that what you're doing is very beneficial to my demographic too, and the people that are looking and considering leaving the U.S., Canada, even the UK to find the ideal place for them and to put more money in their pockets. So let's start off. Which you want to start off with Cyprus because you live in Cyprus? We'll start off with that first, and then move on to the other two.
Yeah, yeah, sure. Let's start with it. And actually, to some reason, I actually noticed that Cyprus, when we are talking about like business opening, then yes, of course, Cyprus is highly promoted on the internet. You can find a lot of content about it. But if we are talking about the retirees, then actually no, Cyprus is never really promoted. Because
Mhm.
why? When we compare it to Malta or Greece or a bunch of other countries, like because normally the content that is promoted is the countries where you can earn some money, like people are doing it for some purpose. And Cyprus, because it's relatively easy to apply for the visa and the requirements are not so high, so it's not only suitable for the high net worth individuals but for
Mhm.
any like US person most likely would be qualified for it. Then, of course, your check as the immigration lawyer, as an advisor, cannot be 20,000 or something like this. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll start with actually the cheapest option how you can relocate. And this is the visitor visa. So in Cyprus, you do not have the special visa for pensioners, for the retirees. Like it just does not exist. So what exists are there are two different visa. The first one is called visitor visa. So anyone who has the passive income coming from abroad, so from any other country outside of Cyprus, and this income is at least 24,000 euro per year, then they are eligible to relocate to Cyprus. Of course, they cannot work in Cyprus, but as long as the work, even if its salary something is outside, the company is outside of Cyprus, then it is fine. And the benefit is that it is also possible to come with a dependent, which is also necessary in case it's a couple coming. So the income has to be just slightly higher. So it's plus 20% on the income.
Okay.
So if a single person, if it's just one person who is relocating, then he needs to have the income of 24,000 euro. If it is a
Hmm.
couple, then and he like another person is coming as a dependent, then the total income has to be 28,800. So absolutely doable, and the pension income is of course qualified. So you just need to show that you have a source of funds coming to you, and you will not be a burden to Cyprus if they allow you to stay here. So, and actually, I have not stumbled, like I was looking if it's really promoted about it in Cyprus, and I did not find any content promoting it because you cannot earn a lot, because people who are interested in this visa category, then most likely they're not earning millions in their life.
Hmm.
So this is one visa option. And the second one is the long-term residence permit. Of
Hmm.
course, this allows you to stay longer because it's a long term. You do not need to apply every single year as with the visitor's visa, but then you need to purchase the to make an investment in Cyprus. And most of the cases when people are applying for it, they're buying real estate for at least 300,000 euro. It's also possible to invest in a business or to buy shares, which is actually cheaper because when you're buying real estate in Cyprus, it is subject to VAT because only the new real estate can be eligible for this residence permit.
Hmm.
So any real estate is subject to 19% VAT. If you
Hmm.
will declare that you will be living in this real estate, so in this house or an apartment, and you do not have any other place in Cyprus, then this VAT can be reduced to 5%. But in any case, it's a little bit higher amount. In addition to this, there is a requirement to show that you will also have not only this real estate investment, which is most likely real estate, but also the annual income of at least 50,000 euro per year, or if it is a couple, a 65,000 euro per year.
Okay.
So yeah, and with this, you can stay as long as you want in Cyprus,
And that's the long term,
which
but
is
you have,
actually a popular
but the
option.
long term requires an investment either in real estate or business or something along those lines.
Yeah, it just most likely because like the real estate market in Cyprus is actually constantly rising.
Hmm.
So if you just buy shares, of course, it is an option. But if you buy real estate, then most likely your 300,000 like that you invest now, they're going to be more 1 year after.
Yeah.
So that's why it is popular option. And in any case, if you are investing in a business, those 300,000, then still you need to spend extra on renting. So
Hmm.
actually, then the overall total cost is more or less the same.
Okay. All right. Thinking about moving abroad? Adventure Freaks is packed with resources to help you every step of the way. Want immigration support? We connect you with experts who understand the process inside and out, giving you the most up-to-date, reliable information. No more sifting through outdated websites or confusing embassy pages. You can click on the country you're interested in and scroll down and see our helpful links here. Here's immigration and visas, which will connect you with an immigration lawyer in that country. Curious about life abroad? Talk to expats who've already made the move, all of which we've done podcasts with on our YouTube channel. Whether it's day-to-day living or navigating local bureaucracy, they've been there and can share their firsthand experience. You can also book a one-on-one consultation with me. I've spoken with hundreds of expats and professionals around the world, and I'm here to help you navigate the process and find the right destination for you. Not sure where to go? Our ideal destination finder can help. Answer 20 simple questions and discover the top 3 countries that match your lifestyle and priorities, all based on your answers. Plus, you can dive into our helpful articles covering everything from finding housing to understanding healthcare abroad. AdventureFreaks.com makes it easy to get the answers you need straight from the source. If you're ready to start your journey, we're here to help. In this video, we're talking specifically about 3 countries. Cyprus is the first. Why Cyprus over its other European counterparts? Why choose Cyprus? For the viewers watching, what is the benefit of selecting and living in that country as opposed to Germany, France, Spain?
Taxation. Every country that you just named, they're so high tax that people from France, Germany, Spain, they try to relocate to Cyprus specifically because they're paying a very high taxes. And in Spain, in those countries, it can go up to 50% in taxes. In Cyprus, of course, there are different tax regimes depending on the source of income, on how you are getting the income. But if we are just talking about the pension income, about the foreign pension income, then in Cyprus, all tax residents, they have a choice. They have a choice how they want this pension to be taxed. The first choice is just to pay 5% flat tax from like the first dollar that you earn and like not earn GAT and like till the last one. So just 5%. And the other choice is to just apply the normal progressive income tax rates, which also depends like which choice is better, which option is better. It depends on how much you get. So you need to make a precise calculation because the progressive tax starts from 0 and comes up to 35%. So if it is a very small income, then for example, if you have those only like the minimum required to relocate, those 24,000, then most likely having the progressive rate from 0 to 35 may be more beneficial to you because the first 19,500, they're absolutely tax-free. And so it means that only afterwards, the tax rate will apply, the taxation will start. So of course it is the benefit, and like I cannot say that it's the only benefit, but it is a significant benefit why people would go better to Cyprus than to France or Germany.
All right, so it sounds to me, Evgenia, like if you choose Cyprus based on your expertise, people are going to save considerably by not being taxed as high as they would in places like Spain, Italy, and France, or Germany.
Yes, that's correct. And so they would not only save on taxes, but also if we are talking about people who would relocate from the US or Canada or any English speaking country, then the benefit is that they do not have the English barrier here at all, because the Cyprus history is very like peculiar and interesting. It's a very hard history, but then it benefited that everyone speaks English. For a very long time, Cyprus was the colony of the UK, and only in 1964 it got its independence.
Oh,
and
wow.
Still there are some parts of Cyprus that still belong to the UK. So just like 20 minutes from my house, we have the British base and the roads there. So even if you violate anything like on the road, then there are going to be the British police coming to you, not the Cypriot, the British one, and they will take it to court in case it's a serious offense, and then they will judge you according to the British laws. Because of this special connection, then there is a strong connection between Cyprus and the UK, and which affected that everyone speaks a very good English. So it's really, really hard to meet anyone who would not speak English. It's like
Hmm.
maybe like in the mountains, in a village, very old person, it can happen. Most likely still not, but it can happen. But yeah, but normally you do not have this language barrier. So you can go to the hospital, you can like I don't know, call any like service to your house and everyone speaks English. So that's another benefit. Like
Hmm.
if, for example, we will be talking about Greece, then in Greece, you do not have this benefit. So in Greece, you really need to learn Greek, which is a hard language because people there, they do not speak English.
Yeah, that's exactly. Tikanis.
Kala, see. Yeah, but like in cases when you just start, it is that, yay, now I will speak another language. But actually, when you start learning it, you realize that it is a unique language.
Yeah.
And because of this, like it is not resembling anything else. And that's why it's extremely hard.
All right, great information. The what's I'm curious. I did not know that part of Cyprus was run by the UK. It's great information. Yeah, we talked before. I said you should be a historian because you know so much about history all over the world. But what side of the road do they drive in Cyprus?
Left,
They
like
do,
UK.
just like the UK. Okay, interesting. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like the UK, we have the sockets just like the UK. So a lot of things is just the UK. And there are also like, for example, if the kids are going to school, then there, of course, there are private schools and public schools. Public schools, they're absolutely free and they're taught in Greek, but there are plenty of schools and a lot of families, they decide to send their kids to the private schools, and then it is possible to choose that they will be taught in accordance with the system that they have in the UK. So after the school, the kid will be just admitted to the UK university, and that is exactly what is happening because a lot of people they're graduating high schools in
Mhm.
Cyprus and they're going to UK. They're graduating from the universities. They're staying a couple of years there pursuing careers, and by late 20s, in the beginning of 30s, they're coming back to Cyprus.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's been happening for many, many decades, right? Like this. And that's why it's another reason why everyone speaks English.
Yeah, yeah. All right, great info. All right, well, let's move on to the next one, Malta. So Malta is this beautiful island in the Mediterranean, not far from Sicily. And it's really unique. It's got a really unique history. I think that the oldest ruins in the world are in Malta. I mean, older than the Egyptian pyramids, everything. Like I've heard, I don't know if that's true or not, but I believe that the oldest ruins ever found in the world are on Malta. Haha, I got you because
Yeah, you just phrased that my history knowledge are great. I don't know. I don't know which
yeah,
country.
so I think that that's accurate. But okay, let's look. Malta is very similar to Cyprus, I would think, because Cyprus is a hotbed for people who are that run businesses, that have startups, that are nomads, that have businesses online. So there's a reason people are flocking to Cyprus and Malta. What makes Malta stand out and an ideal destination for these types of people to move to?
Again, the sun, like the same as Cyprus, sun, just the relaxed lifestyle and taxation. Of
Hmm.
course, like everything comes to taxes because like you can enjoy sun in many different countries, but if this country tries to take half of your income, then like the sun is still shining, but not as bright as when you have more money. So yeah,
Yes.
it's again taxation.
Okay.
However, if we are talking about like that they're similar. You said that Malta and Cyprus, they are similar. Like they're not really similar. So Malta is much smaller and the lifestyle there is a little bit different. So it is like actually it is suitable for people who have higher income than those who can relocate to Cyprus because the criteria is how you can relocate to Cyprus is higher. So the income already has to be higher. The taxation is a little bit higher. It's still good, like because in general, Europe, like what is happening in the last, I would say like 3 years, like also started earlier, but mostly in the last 3 years that Europe started to close down. So it closed a lot of like the programs that it had, like tax incentive, a lot of visa types, citizenship by investment. It's closing down. So Malta and Cyprus, they're still possible to relocate to, and that's also another reason why people try to go there
Hmm.
because it's still an option.
Hmm.
Yeah, but mostly taxation, of course.
Okay. Do you know what the income requirements are for Malta or anything about the visa there? Or?
Yeah, yeah, of course, I also know about it. And like in Malta, again, if we are talking about the retirees, then there are again two mostly used visa options. And the first one is the Malta Retirement Program, and
Mhm.
the second one is again the Malta Permanent Residence Program. However, for the multi-retirement program, like the requirement is that 75, at least 75% of the taxable income will be received in Malta. Why it is important? So the pension income is qualified, but why is it important? Because as I already mentioned, I think I already mentioned, Malta was also the British colony back then. And in almost every colony that Britain had, it inserted its own system, its own laws, and they divided the taxation for the non-domiciled and domiciled. And now UK is canceling it, but Malta still has it. And so in Malta, they still have this concept of non-domicile tax resident and domicile.
Hmm.
And any foreigner, like almost any foreigner who is coming to Malta, they can claim that they're non-domiciled. And the tax rules for them, they are different. So the rule is that if you have any income sourced from abroad, so not from Malta, and it is not remitted to Malta, then it's not taxed when you're a Maltese tax resident.
Hmm.
You're paying taxes only when it is remitted to Malta. And so that's why this Malta retirement program, they made a specific criteria that 75% of the taxable income of the person who is relocating to Malta, they have to receive it in Malta, so it will be taxable. So this is one of the like main criteria. And there is no specification how high your pension has to be. Like if it's pension or dividends, anything, it is not specified. So any
Yeah.
income is fine. However, in addition to this criteria, they also have an investment criteria. So here, each person who wants to relocate under this program, they have the option either to buy real estate in Malta with at least 275,000 euro if we are talking about the North Malta or Central Malta, in the less developed parts of Malta. However, like still it is developed because like Malta is very small, then this requirement is a little bit lower. This requirement is 220,000 euro.
Hmm.
So either you're purchasing this real estate or you need to rent with the value of at least 9,600 euro per year. So in any case, it is still harder already to have this visa because if you cannot purchase or you prefer to have like something very small and cheap, then you are not allowed. This visa is issued for 5 years, and in this case, you're paying, like as I mentioned to you, 75% of the income is remitted to Malta and it is taxable then in Malta. And you will pay 15% tax on it. However, again, like they Malta wanted the government, or they wanted to protect themselves from just people who are coming and they're not bringing anything to Malta. So they said, whatever comes first, either 15% or the minimum tax paid of 7,500. So it depends whether it's a good option or not. It depends on your actual income. So if you have a very small income per year, then the 7,500 is actually a lot. However, if the income is more or less like doable, then it could be result in a like not a high taxation. So it's one of the option. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Because it sounds like that Malta wouldn't be the destination for people that are retirees, especially if they're making 50, if they have a retirement for 50, 60,000 a year. Because they have to
No.
pay that minimum 7,500, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's correct.
So,
But
okay.
actually, that's not a lot. If we are talking about relocating to Europe, that's not a lot. That's the thing. Like in general, Europe is something that is where you enjoy a lot. You have a lot of cultural difference. You have safety. You can just have the house opened and not be worried about that something will happen and something will get stolen. But then you need to pay for it.
Hmm.
So that's exactly what's the difference between, for example, about Latin America, where it is possible not to pay taxes at all, but then you're not as safe, and then Europe, where you're paying some taxes,
Yeah.
but but in return you have a lot of benefits there.
Well, Evgenia, can you help us understand? Because I'm really a tax dummy. And that's why I have friends like you to help explain this stuff. But like, can you break it down in really simplistic terms what that means, that non-domicile, the non-dom thing that you were referring to? That's basically people that are so they don't have an address in Malta, but can you break it down and explain it in more detail? Just
Oh
simplify
no
it
no
for
no
the
no no!
listeners.
Of course they have it. They have an address. It's just like, okay, let's get back to the history again. So when the British Empire was there, and what happened that the British citizens, they had to pay taxes everywhere. They had to pay taxes in the like exactly like, let's say, just simplify, in London, and then they were going to India and they had to pay taxes in India as well on their properties there. So Britain, because normally how tax systems are made, it has to benefit the rich people, right? And it has been like this for like since the world was created.
Mhm.
And British Empire was not an exception. So what they did, they said that we will introduce this concept of domiciled and non-domiciled. And they made it in order for all the British colonists, they would officially be non-domiciled and thus not liable to taxes. So what happened?
Okay.
They said that this domicile concept is very vague. So the best question, how you can understand whether you are domiciled or not, and like it's this rule is applicable till now in most of the countries. In some, of course, there are specific requirements that you are just following to understand if you are domiciled or not. But for example, if you are relocating to a country from, let's say, US,
Hmm.
and then you're relocating to Malta, ask yourself a question. Do I want to stay till in Malta till the day I die? If the answer is yes, then most likely you are domiciled. So it is the country where you are considering not only your temporary base, not only the place where you stay here and now, like for a year or two, or like maybe even five, but this is the place where you want to die, you want to be buried, like that's it for you. Like you are no longer interested in relocating to the other countries. Of course, I'm simplifying right now, but
Hmm.
that
Hmm.
is how it works. And like for example, in Cyprus, if you're relocating, they have a very specific criteria. Like some countries, they have this vague notion of like domiciled only if you want to die in this country, like, and then you can play with it. You can
Hmm.
stay for 10, 15, 20 years and still say that I have already booked myself a place in the cemetery in US. So I'm non-domiciled here. Some
I see.
countries, for example, Cyprus, they say that you can be domiciled, but like your maximum amount when you can be considered a non-domiciled is 17 years. That's it. Even if
Okay.
you have like, I don't know, some other connection to the other country, and you say to us that you want to relocate there afterwards and you are staying here only for 17 hours, 17 years, we will consider you domiciled and liable to more taxes if you stay longer. So
Okay.
this domicile concept is just, in a lot of cases, it's just an intention to have a significant connection to the country.
Hmm. So it sound okay. So being non-domiciled means you're
I
not
hope
going.
it was clear. Did you
Yeah, let's
get
let me.
it?
Yeah, so you got it. So if you stay beyond 17 years in Malta, you will become domiciled, correct?
No, that was in Cyprus. Like Malta is more vague.
It's more vague. Okay.
Malta is actually more vague, yes.
Okay.
I just did an example of Cyprus. As I mentioned, some countries, they have the precise rule. Some countries, they just say that, like, you can be domiciled from the first year, but for some years, you can benefit and you can claim that Malta maybe is not your final destination. Maybe you are staying here only for a certain period of time, but you will move on.
Okay. So then, so Malta is it's good to stay non-domiciled for the viewers because you're not going to be taxed on the income.
You will not be taxed on the non-remitted income. So what does it mean remitted? Like maybe I should also explain the concept of remittance. Remittance is basically the transfer
Yeah.
of the income to the country.
Okay.
So the same concept, it like several countries have it, not only Malta. And for example, you have your income transferred to your US bank account. As long as the money stay in the US bank account and you are not using this account in Malta, it is not subject to Malta taxation. They're not taxing it.
Okay.
The moment that you transfer the money from your American bank account to your Maltese bank account, then in this case, it is remitted to Malta. So Malta has some interest on this money and they will put taxes on it. By
Okay.
remittance, of course, it's not as simple as just a bank transfer. So using a credit card or paying your rent with the foreign, like that, with the card that is attached to your foreign bank account, of course, it is still remittance. So anything that is basically you use in Malta, all the money, then it is considered remitted.
I would
And in
think that,
this case, it is taxable.
yeah, I would think that most of the retirees would just leave it in their bank account in Canada, the US, and just have it transfer, and just use what they could use when they need it over there. I don't see them as transferring money into a bank in Malta. Um, does that sound like accurate for more for like retirees? They'd keep it in their own banks.
No, no, do you remember that I told you that like the first condition, if we are talking about multi-retirement program, that they need to remit 75% of their,
Okay. So they
yeah.
need to
So
transfer
that is
over
the thing.
75% to Malta. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So they can't bypass. So then
Of
again,
course, if we are talking, yeah, of course, if we are talking about the retirement program, because Malta also has the permanent residence permit. And in this case, you also need to purchase real estate, but with a higher amount. So the minimum amount is 350,000 euros purchase and like and some other conditions, some contributions and fees.
yeah.
And in this case, if you are actually investing more, then you do not have this obligation of transferring a certain percentage of your income.
Hmm.
So if you are eligible, if you have enough funds to make this investment, then you do not have an obligation of transferring the income from your Canadian or US bank account to the Maltese one. And then, like, of course, it is staying tax free.
Hmm. Okay. Do you think that Malta is a good option when you think of other European countries and even some out of the Shenzhen, like Montenegro or Albania or Serbia.
In my opinion, yes. Again, you do not have a problem with the English language, which could be a problem because like even if you're going to a doctor and retirees, they might go to a doctor from time to
Mhm,
time. You do not have this problem that no one speaks your language.
mhm,
Or if you go to the any public authorities and I don't know, you need some certificates, some documents, and you never have the problem that you need to have a translator with you. You're
mhm,
going out. And I have heard from the people who relocated at a certain, like, let's say, senior age, that they cannot feel included if they're going out on the street and no one speaks their language. It's very hard to make connections and they're just not feeling all right. And
mhm,
that's exactly what would happen in the other countries. So if you are relocating, like for example, I love Greece, but in Greece you will have this problem. Like
mhm.
either you need to move with someone, but if it's a single person and they're relocating there and they will stay in some kind of village, then most likely they will be completely alone. It will be very hard to communicate with anyone.
Sure.
Even though people are friendly, but they just don't
Yeah.
speak the language.
From a financial perspective, compared to those countries, is there an overall benefit?
Yes, yes. Again, like 15%, what I told you, and it can be 15, it can be lower depending on the actual amount that, like on the visa that you are applying, whether it's the permanent residence or the retirement program, then on the amount that you pay. So this maximum rate is 15%, and then it can be lower. The other countries, they just don't offer it. So if you go to Spain, you can end up with like, okay, there are also different regimes like Beckham law regime, like some other things, but the lowest you're having is around like the total taxation is around 30%.
Okay. All right. So good. So the Malta, Cyprus, those are the two ideal ones, especially if you want to speak English, because pretty much everybody is speaking English in those countries. When we go over to
Yes,
Greece, when we head over to Greece, which we're going to talk about now, that is a different story. So this Greece is more for the adventurers, for the adventurous spirit that wants to take
yes.
on a new language, but yet I think all overall too, Greece overall is a lot more affordable. You let me know your thoughts on that than Malta and Cyprus.
It depends. It depends what you mean by affordable. I mean, if you have a European passport, then for sure, like the lifestyle there, the rent cost, the groceries, like restaurants, everything, it is cheaper
Yeah,
than in either Malta or Cyprus.
yeah,
It
yeah.
is cheaper.
Hmm.
But the issue is, how will you relocate there? If you have the US passport or a Canadian one, you cannot just relocate to Greece,
Right.
like it's the privilege of the European citizens or Switzerland. And the issue is with Greece that even though inside the country it is cheaper, it is harder to get in. I mean, okay, like it is not harder than Malta, but it is harder than Cyprus, for
Hmm.
example.
Hmm.
So again, as in any country, we have two main options how the US people can relocate to Greece. And the first one is the financial independent persons visa. So again, like it's called independent visa. So it's not specifically made for the retirees because the official requirements is that anyone who can demonstrate the passive income are allowed to apply for this visa.
Okay.
However, in practice, it is mostly suitable for the retirees because one of the requirements is to have this stable income. And for example, a salaried income is not stable. A dividend income can be recognized as stable, can be recognized not as stable. So actually the rejection rate for anyone who who like officially is eligible to apply, but whose income is not a pension income can be rejected. And the rejection ratio is quite high. And with the pension income, the rejection ratio is very, very low because the pension is as stable as can be. Like you cannot find anything more stable.
What's the minimum income requirement for that?
It depends again, like if you're relocating by yourself or you're relocating with someone like as a spouse, for example, with a dependent. So for one person, the minimum income is 3,500. And if you have a dependent, then plus 20%. So if you're relocating, for example, as a couple with your spouse, then you need to have a monthly income of 4,200 per month. So
Okay.
actually, it's not a small amount. If you do not have it, it is also possible to demonstrate that you have a significant deposit in your bank account, so you will not be a burden to Greece. But like we are talking about like the minimum requirement. So if we are talking about the deposit, then you need to have like approximately 150,000 in your bank account if
Mhm.
you're coming with a spouse. So it's not a small amount as well.
If you
Yeah,
prove you have this amount of money in a bank account, then you can
yeah,
get in, right? Okay.
yeah, yeah. So one of the two, at least
Okay.
one of the two.
So what
But
make
yeah, also
Mhm.
also like sorry that I did not mention that you also have to look when you're relocating, do you have diseases or not? Because like in general, as I told you, like Europe has a lot of restrictions
Mhm.
and people with certain diseases, like they're just looking at the migration and like financial requirement and like visa, etc. But they're not taking into account that they might be rejected simply because they have a certain disease. And
Mhm.
unfortunately, this is the case. Like, and Greece is not exception, Cyprus is not exception, Malta
Mhm.
is not exception. So, like for example, in Greece, if a person has a syphilis or tuberculosis, then he is considered as the significant threat to the society, and he will be
Okay.
rejected. In Cyprus, a person with the HIV cannot apply. So so unfortunately, even though, like in my opinion, there is no threat to public health, however, unfortunately, this is the case.
Yeah. Okay. And what stands out about Greece for the viewers on how they can save and keep more money in their pocket if they move there?
Okay, like the taxation again, it depends whether you have been a tax resident in Greece before or not. But if you have not been a tax resident in Greece for 5 years out of six, then you are eligible to have the special tax treatment. And the special tax treatment means that any passive income from abroad, which includes pension, will be taxed at the rate of 7%, just a flat tax rate. And it is like much more beneficial than the standard brackets that Greece has, because the normal tax brackets in Greece is from 9 to 44%. So
Okay.
if it is the high income, you can imagine the difference between 44 and 7%.
Wow, that's great. So just a straight on 7% tax.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Does
But
it
for the passive income, like only you have to distinguish between like if you're still working and you have a salary income, then it is not be considered as the passive, so it will be taxed within normal tax brackets.
right?
If it is a passive, for example, if you have a dividends or if you're renting an apartment back in US or anywhere, and then you have the income, then it is just 7%. And this preferential tax treatment is given for 15 years.
For 15 years. Okay. And that's for pensions as well?
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So that's a great deal. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Is there is there anything else, Evgenia, that we need to know about these three countries for the viewers that are considering moving to either Cyprus, Malta, or Greece, or anything else that we didn't cover that you can think of that could be helpful?
Yes. Yes. If you are considering relocation, first of all, of course, visit the country before relocation. And second of all, also take into account that you need a private health insurance, because that's in a lot of cases, people, they do not think about it, because everyone knows that in Europe, all countries, they have the free public healthcare. But as the US citizen, like normally, if a retiree is relocating from another European country, then they are eligible for this free healthcare system. But a US citizen or a Canadian, so anything outside of European Union, those people will not be eligible for the medical services for free. So they would need to have the health insurance.
Hmm.
And this can be, I'm not saying it's always, but it can be a significant cost as well.
Yeah.
So they have to take.
Do you have any idea what those insurance plans are? A private health insurance plan is for the people considering moving there? Any idea, like per month?
It depends. It like normally, of course, there are different plans, but normally if you have some funds that you can pay per year, then normally it's a little bit cheaper.
Hmm.
So if you're paying in any case, then around per year, but it's very approximate cost. It also like depends on the company, on the age, because all the private health cares, they are offering different packages depending on your age. So the age group, and then you're filing like basically a compliance check, listing all the diseases that you had, and then they are giving you the fee. But I would say you have to count for at least like 3-4 thousand if we are talking about a person after 70.
Okay, after 70, about 3 to 4 thousand. That's per
Yeah,
year.
at least. So
Yeah.
like that is the minimum.
Okay, per year.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. All right, great. Well, great information. Evgenia from Nomad Tax. Thank you so much for sharing all of this information with the viewers and your expertise. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I hope
Yeah.
I could make a little bit more clear about like whether you should move to those countries or not.
Yeah. Thank you so much. All right, and I'll talk to you soon. All right. You have a great rest of the evening over there.
Yes, thank you. Have a good day too.